While camping deep in the wild mountains of Colorado, my daughter, Mia, coldly left me behind. "Good luck, Dad. Hope you meet the bear," she said, a twisted smirk on her face. I thought I misheard her at first, but the look in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. She thought I wouldn't make it out of there, that I'd die of hunger or perhaps a bear's claws, so she could claim the house, the property, and everything I had worked for. But when she came back, I was waiting for her, sitting by the campfire, a smile stretching across my face. "You won't believe what happened next," I told her. "Before we dive deeper, make sure to subscribe to Dear Karma, and let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments below." The front door swung open without a sound. Mia stormed in, her jacket soaked from the mountain rain. Her boots scraped against the floor as she walked into the house. "Dad, I need $10,000 right now." I stopped what I was doing at the kitchen table, hands shaking slightly, still holding the paperwork I was reviewing. The sharp tone in her voice hit me like a slap to the face. This wasn't my daughter asking for help. No, this was a demand. "What's going on?" I asked, feeling the tension rise in my chest. $10,000 tonight, Mia snapped, pacing across the room. "I don't care how you do it." "Mia, what are you talking about?" "You already got your allowance last month," I said, trying to stay calm. "That $3,000 you gave me is barely enough to cover my rent." "It's never enough, Dad. Don't you get it?" Her frustration was starting to turn into anger. Her voice was cracking, and I could see the resentment building behind her eyes. "You've got a good job, Mia. You need to start budgeting better. Work on managing your finances like we talked about." "Managing finances," she repeated bitterly, her eyes narrowing. "Why should I have to work when you have all this money? I'm tired of living under your thumb, Dad. I'm sick of it." The words stung, and for a moment, I felt a cold wave wash over me. It wasn't just her frustration talking anymore. There was something darker, something more sinister. The way she spoke of my death, of my business, my house, my everything, it hit me like a hammer. "What's really going on here?" I asked, my voice low. Mia spun around and slammed her fist against the counter. "You think you can just control me? You think you can buy my love? All this time, I've been stuck under your shadow, and I'm done with it. When you die, I'll take over the company. I'll run it better than you ever did." Her words hung in the air, poisoned with greed. I could feel the air in the room grow thick, suffocating. For the first time in all these years, I felt like I didn't know my own daughter. The person who I'd given everything to, who I'd sacrificed my dreams for, had turned into someone who was willing to betray me just for money. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. My thoughts scattered. 20 years of raising Mia, providing for her, doing everything I could to make her life better, all of it crumbled in an instant. This wasn't about helping her anymore. It was about her seeing me as a stepping stone for her own gain. She must have realized what she said. Her eyes flickered briefly, and for a second, I thought she might backtrack, apologize. But instead, she turned toward the door, her movements sharp, filled with anger. The door slammed shut behind her, and I stood frozen, staring at the now empty space. The silence in the room was deafening. I could hear nothing but the ticking of the clock on the wall. The reality of what just happened slowly began to sink in. The next morning, I reached for the family photo on the mantel. It was a picture from Mia's high school graduation, smiling and holding the diploma. I couldn't look at it without the memories flooding back, of the late nights spent working when she was young, of the sacrifices, the hospital bills, the countless hours spent away from home to build my business. All for her. I walked to the desk, pulled out old photo albums, and began flipping through them. Each page revealed the sacrifices I had made, hoping to give me opportunities one never had. I remembered paying for her private school tuition when she refused public school, her Ivy League tuition that I'd drained every savings account for. The car I bought her for her 21st birthday. It all felt like wasted effort now. I couldn't help but wonder when I had lost her. When did she stop being the little girl who would crawl into my lap for stories, the one who looked up to me, and turn into this? The whole time, I thought I was being a good father. I thought I was doing what was best for her. But now, I saw that all my efforts had created a person who couldn't see beyond her own desires. The realization felt like a punch to the gut. By the time I sat down at the kitchen table to start drafting my will, I knew what I had to do. I picked up the phone and dialed my lawyer. The conversation was short but to the point. Mia would inherit nothing. All my assets, my company, my home, everything, would go to a foundation in Sarah's name. I felt a twisted sense of irony as I set the phone down. Mia's plan to murder me in the wilderness had just given me the clarity I needed. Everything I had worked for would go to causes that mattered. To wildlife conservation, to veterans, to the scholarship fund in Sarah's name, places where the money could actually do something good. And then I called Oliver. Oliver was a man I knew well. He had worked with me on a few projects over the years, and I trusted him with my life. He had a quiet strength to him that made him perfect for this. He would be my witness when Mia arrived. "Oliver, I need your help," I said when he picked up. "Of course. What's going on?" "I'm setting a trap for Mia. When she shows up, I need everything documented. Her reaction, her words, everything." "You can do that, right?" Oliver paused. "You sure you're doing the right thing? This is a big step." "I'm sure. I want to give her exactly what she thought she wanted. The inheritance. Right up until the moment she realizes that's all gone. She'll learn the consequences of her greed." Oliver agreed to be there. He'd set up a camera in the adjoining room. Mia would have no idea. Everything would be recorded. I felt a cold sense of purpose settle over me. The calm before the storm. And now, we wait. The hours seemed to crawl by as I waited. The tension in the air was thick, like a storm brewing just out of sight. I couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation building within me. This wasn't just about protecting my assets anymore. It was about something deeper, something far more personal. The life I'd spent building with Mia, the sacrifices, the love I had poured into raising her, had been a lie. The silence of the house seemed to mock me, each tick of the clock louder than the last. I hadn't realized until that moment how much I relied on the sound of Mia's footsteps, her voice, even her sharp remarks. It had been years since we'd really connected, and now, it felt like the distance between us was insurmountable. The evening was already slipping into night when I finally saw the headlights of Mia's car reflecting off the window. I stood up, moving quietly toward the kitchen. My hands were steady, even though my heart was pounding in my chest. The next few minutes would change everything. I went over the plan in my head one last time. Everything was set. The legal documents were ready, clearly visible on the desk. The camera was running in the next room, capturing everything. Oliver's presence would be crucial. His testimony would ensure Mia wouldn't escape what was coming. I could hear the crunch of tires on gravel as Mia pulled into the driveway. I forced myself to breathe, my mind racing with 1,000 different possibilities. Was she really going to show up and face me, or would she try to avoid the confrontation? Would she act like she was in control, or would her guilt start to seep through? The door opened slowly. I could hear her steps in the hall before the sound of her voice broke the silence. "Dad?" Mia called out, her voice uncertain, though there was an edge of something, defensiveness or maybe just the remnants of anger. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I wanted her to come to me. And she did. I saw her figure in the doorway, her eyes scanning the room, taking in the sight of me sitting at the desk. Her face went pale when her gaze landed on the legal documents I'd placed there. She stopped, her breath hitching, before she stepped fully into the room. "Dad," her voice trailed off as her eyes flickered between the documents and me. She seemed confused, like she hadn't expected this moment to come so soon. "Mia," I said, my voice calm, almost too calm. "It's good to see you." She swallowed hard, her fingers twitching at her sides as if she wasn't sure what to do with them. "What is this?" she asked, her tone shaky now. "You changed your will?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, Mia, I did. I've made some changes to my estate, to who I leave everything to." Her eyes narrowed, a spark of panic igniting in them. I don't understand. You can't just change everything. This is mine. It's always been mine." I kept my gaze fixed on her, the weight of what I was about to reveal pressing down on my chest. "No, Mia. You don't get it. You thought you could control me, manipulate me, use me. But it's over. Everything I've worked for will be going to people who deserve it. People who actually need it." Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came out at first. Her face flushed, and I saw the flicker of realization cross her expression. "You're serious, aren't you?" she finally whispered. "You're cutting me out." "I'm cutting you out, Mia. You've made it clear you don't want to be a daughter. You've made it clear that you think my life, and what I've built, are just things for you to take when I'm gone. Well, now you'll get nothing. All of it is going to charity. The Wildlife Conservation Fund, veterans organizations, and a scholarship in your mother's name." Her face twisted in disbelief. "You can't do this. You can't just disown me." The words came out bitter, sharp, as if they were claws scraping at the air between us. I leaned back in my chair, never breaking eye contact with her. "You made your choice when you left me in the wilderness, Mia. You chose money over family. Over your father. You thought I would die out there, and you would take everything. You thought I'd be gone, and you could just step into my life and claim what you wanted." Mia took a step back, her eyes scanning the room, frantic. She opened her mouth, trying to find the words to explain herself, to justify her actions. I didn't mean for it to go this far, Dad. I didn't mean to leave you out there. But you've made everything so hard. You never let me make my own choices. You've always been controlling. And I just wanted to finally have control of something." I stood up then, my movements slow and deliberate. "The problem, Mia, is that you've never had to work for anything. You've had everything handed to you. And when you didn't get exactly what you wanted, you thought you could just take it. You thought your father's life was something to be used for your own gain." She flinched as I took a step toward her, her eyes wide, her body tense. "Please, Dad. I didn't mean it like that. I was just frustrated. I never had a chance to do anything on my own." "You had plenty of chances," I said coldly. "But instead of taking responsibility for your life, you chose to manipulate me. You tried to make me a means to an end. And now, you'll get to see exactly what that leads to." I turned toward the desk, picking up the legal papers and holding them up in front of her. "This is your future, Mia. Not the house. Not the business. Everything I worked for, everything I built, is gone. You'll get nothing." The room seemed to shrink as I watched her face crumble. Her breath came faster, her shoulders shaking slightly. But there was no remorse in her eyes, no apology. Only a quiet fury that simmered just below the surface. "This isn't fair," she whispered, but the words sounded weak, hollow, as though she realized, deep down, that there was no fairness to be found here. She had dug her own grave. "You're right. It's not fair. But it's justice, I said firmly, my voice unwavering. You've betrayed me, Mia. And now you'll face the consequences. Mia's hands clenched into fists at her sides. You've ruined everything. You've ruined me. Her voice cracked as she shouted the words, but I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. I had already made my peace with what had to happen. I walked to the door, pausing before I left. The police will be here soon, Mia. I've already contacted them. What you've done won't be overlooked. Her voice trembled as she called after me. Wait. Wait, don't. But I didn't stop. I didn't turn back. The last thing I saw before I stepped outside was Mia, crumpled in the chair I'd once sat in, staring at the legal papers in disbelief, her world coming down around her. The cold air hit my face as I stepped outside, but there was no relief. No peace. Only the certainty that this was the end of something. The end of a life I'd tried to build for Mia. The end of a future I thought we could share. Mia had made her choice. And now, there would be no going back. The silence outside was deafening. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, my breath visible in the cold air, staring back at the door I had just closed behind me. The weight of everything that had happened in the last few hours settled deep in my bones. I had never imagined it would come to this, watching my daughter, the person I had fought so hard for, unravel like this. I could still hear her voice inside, muffled by the thick walls of the house, the desperation, the panic. But I couldn't go back. There was nothing left to say to her. Nothing left but the reality of the situation. She had made her bed, and now she was going to lie in it. I had to remind myself that this was the only way forward. I pulled my phone from my pocket and dialed Oliver's number. He answered on the first ring. William? His voice was calm, steady. What happened? Mia's here. It's happening. I gave her everything, the will, the consequences. She's breaking down, but it's too late. I've already set everything in motion. I could almost hear him nodding through the phone. Good. We'll make sure it all gets documented. You did the right thing. I paused, leaning against the side of the house. The weight of the conversation, of everything that had led to this moment, was heavy. I don't know if I did the right thing, Oliver. It doesn't feel right. Watching her fall apart, it's not the victory I thought it would be. Oliver's voice softened. Sometimes the hardest things are the right things. What you did wasn't about victory, it was about survival. And you're still standing. He was right. I knew that, deep down. But it didn't make the emptiness in my chest any easier to bear. I wasn't sure if I was still mourning the daughter I had loved or the life I had lost. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Oliver said, breaking my reverie. We'll take it from here. Thanks, Oliver, I replied. I'll be ready. I ended the call, then turned back toward the house. The lights in the windows were dim, and I could just barely make out the outline of Mia inside, pacing back and forth. Her frantic energy filled the space, but I felt no sympathy for her. She had chosen this path. The next few minutes passed in a blur, my mind consumed by everything that had happened and everything that was about to unfold. The police were on their way. I had already made the call, quietly, carefully. No one would find out that Mia had tried to murder me for inheritance until it was too late. I had made sure of that. I stepped back into the house, my boots clicking against the hardwood floors. Mia was still in the same chair, her face pale, her expression distant. She looked like a ghost of the person she had been just hours ago. You're still here, she said, her voice hoarse from shouting. Why? What are you going to do now? I'm going to let the consequences take their course, Mia, I said, my voice even, almost detached. You've made your choice. And now, you'll face what comes with it. Her eyes widened. No, no, please. Don't do this. I made a mistake. I didn't mean it. I wasn't thinking clearly. She choked on the words, tears welling up in her eyes. I just wanted a chance, Dad. A chance to prove I could stand on my own. You never let me do anything on my own. You always controlled everything. You never gave me a choice. The anger I had been holding back surged inside me. Don't you dare try to turn this on me, Mia. You wanted control, and you thought you could take it by force. You thought you could kill me for it. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Her tears were flowing freely now, but there was no remorse behind them. It was the kind of sorrow someone feels when they've been caught, not the kind of regret that comes with truly understanding the damage they've done. I could hear the sirens in the distance, getting closer. Mia didn't hear them yet. Her desperation rose as she reached out toward me. Dad, please, she begged, her voice cracking. I'll do anything. Please don't send me to jail. I'll change. I'll do better. I swear to God, I will. Just don't let them take me away. I looked down at her, seeing the last remnants of the daughter I once knew fading before me. It's too late for that, Mia. You can't erase what you've done. This is the price of your choices. I can't save you from yourself anymore. Her face crumpled as she sank back into the chair, sobbing uncontrollably. The noise was like a sharp edge digging into my chest. But I stood firm. I couldn't save her anymore. I had tried for years. I had given her everything, and it had never been enough. The woman who stood before me was no longer my daughter. She was someone entirely different, someone unrecognizable. The doorbell rang, sharp and urgent. Mia froze, her eyes wide. The sound seemed to snap her out of her hysteria, but it didn't matter. There was no going back. I turned toward the door, steeling myself for what was coming. When I opened it, 2 officers stood on the porch, their faces serious. Behind them, I saw Oliver's car parked at the curb, a reminder of how everything had fallen into place. Mr. Harper, one of the officers asked. I nodded. Yes. It's all ready. The recording is inside. The confession, everything you need. The officers exchanged glances before stepping inside, their eyes landing on Mia. She looked up at them, her face blotched from crying, but there was no sympathy in their eyes. They had already seen it all, families torn apart by greed, the desperate pleas, the regret that only came after everything had been lost. Miss Harper, one of them said, addressing her now. You're under arrest for attempted murder, abandonment, and conspiracy to defraud. Mia's eyes widened in shock as she stumbled to her feet. No. You don't understand. I didn't mean to. The officers stepped forward, gently but firmly taking her by the arms and pulling her away. The struggle was brief, and I could hear her sobbing as they led her out the door. I turned back to the living room, the chaos now gone, replaced by a quiet that was almost worse than the storm of emotions I had just witnessed. Mia was gone, taken away by the consequences of her actions. And now, I had nothing left. I sank into the chair, my mind numb. I could hear the distant sounds of Mia's protests fading into the background as the officers took her away. The weight of it all was overwhelming. But at least it was over. At least, I could finally breathe again. The police had taken Mia, but the house felt as though she was still there, the echoes of her anger and betrayal lingering in every corner. It was a strange kind of emptiness, one I hadn't expected to feel. I had prepared myself for relief, for a sense of closure, but instead, all I felt was a profound sadness, a loss, but not in the way I had expected. I walked through the house slowly, my steps muted against the hardwood floors. The walls, once filled with pictures of happy memories, now felt cold and sterile. Every photo on the mantel was a reminder of what we had lost. A life that, for all my efforts, I couldn't protect. The legal documents were still on the desk where I had left them, untouched by Mia's frantic pleas, by her desperate attempts to reason with me. I walked over and picked them up, my fingers brushing against the thick paper. It was final now. Mia would never see a dime of what she thought she was entitled to. I sat down at the desk, staring at the papers in front of me. The irony of it all hit me again. The daughter I had given everything for, who I had worked my whole life to provide for, had turned against me in the most brutal way possible. She thought I was just a means to an end. But I had been wrong about her all along. I had been wrong about what she wanted, about what she needed. I had tried to buy her love, to provide her with everything she could ever need, but all I had done was create a person who didn't understand the value of sacrifice, of hard work, of love without strings attached. The sound of a knock at the door broke through my thoughts. I stood up, feeling the weight of everything I had just been through on my shoulders. I opened the door to find Oliver standing there, a slight frown on his face, but a look of respect in his eyes. "William," he said, stepping inside. "I just got off the phone with the authorities. Mia's in custody, and it looks like she's going to be facing some serious charges. Attempted murder, abandonment in the wilderness, it's not going to be easy for her." "I know," I replied quietly, stepping aside to let him in. "But I'm not sure it matters anymore." Oliver looked at me, his expression softening. "You did what you had to do. I don't think anyone could have made a different choice in your position." I nodded, but the truth of it weighed heavily on me. I didn't want to be right, Oliver. I didn't want to be in this position. I spent my whole life trying to give her everything. And this is what she's become. It's like I don't even recognize her anymore. Oliver didn't say anything for a moment, just stood there, letting the silence settle between us. Finally, he spoke again, his voice low but firm. "Sometimes, it's not about what you give. It's about what they're willing to take. Mia made her own choices, just like you made yours. You didn't fail her. She failed herself." I turned away, walking toward the window. Outside, the sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It should have been beautiful, but all I could feel was emptiness. The kind of emptiness that comes from realizing that you can't fix what's broken, no matter how hard you try. "She's gone, isn't she?" I whispered, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "My daughter. She's gone." Oliver stepped up behind me, his voice steady. "She made her choice, William. She chose greed, and now she's going to have to live with it." I nodded slowly, but the knot in my chest didn't loosen. I looked back at Oliver. I keep thinking, what if I had done something differently? What if I had been more patient? More understanding? Could I have saved her from this? "Maybe," Oliver said quietly. "But maybe you would have lost yourself in the process. Sometimes, letting go is the only way to save yourself." I didn't respond, but the weight of his words settled into me like the finality of a long, deep breath. I had given Nia every chance I could. Now, it was time to take back my own life, to rebuild what was left of it. I turned away from the window and walked back to the desk, picking up the phone. I dialed my lawyer's number, already knowing what needed to be done. I had to finalize the paperwork for the foundation. The scholarship in Sarah's name, the Wildlife Conservation Fund, the veterans organizations, these were the things that truly mattered now. As I hung up the phone, I felt something shift within me. A sense of peace, maybe, or a glimmer of purpose. I had spent so much time looking out for Mia, trying to protect her from the world, from herself. But I had forgotten about me. Forgotten that I still had a life to live. I wasn't done yet. I still had time to do something meaningful, something that mattered. I walked out of the house and down the steps, the cool night air brushing against my face. The world felt different somehow. Like I was finally seeing it clearly for the first time. The mountains loomed in the distance, silent and steady, and for the first time in a long time, I felt small, but not in a bad way. Just reminded of how much more there was to life than the narrow focus I had held onto for so long. I knew what I had to do now. It was time to move on. Time to rebuild. Time to give back. To honor Sarah's memory. To do something that mattered. As I stood there, looking out over the quiet, sprawling wilderness, I felt a strange sense of freedom. Mia had tried to break me, to take everything I had built. But in the end, she had given me something far more valuable, clarity. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to Dear Karma, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges at us, but it's how we choose to respond that defines who we are.